What's the most evil company in the world?
There are quite a few, and there are some that I want to mention, but I like living. Shout to B613, so I'm gonna leave them out.
Seen on the check-in.
But let's put together an all-star team of companies that have done incredible damage to the world. Dupont being one, Nestle being two, Johnson and Johnson being three, Pfizer being four, and Nike being number five. So if you look at Johnson and Johnson, just in our community, they had an egregious and aggressive marketing campaign for us to put baby powder on our bodies for years, knowing that it would give us cancer, to then try and sell us a drug to offset the cancer. Pay one of the biggest fines in human history. Pfizer, if you look at in the pharmaceutical industry, even though they know that there's a lot of nefarious stuff that is done, they are the black sheep of a black sheep industry. And there's a reason why their stock has fallen damn near 80% from the highs. Testing is not as efficient. Once they lost the rights to Viagra, that business fell apart. But most of the drugs that they put out are not properly tested and also are not efficient. Um, DuPont, I mean, kudos to the DuPont family. Part of the reason why weed was deemed illegal for the longest period of time and hemp got banned is because during the World War, they wanted to sell ropes made out of nylon opposed to hemp, even though hemp was better and stronger. They demonized, going back to William Bernays and propaganda. They then lobbied to make sure that hemp was illegal and deemed it as a thing that made people lazy. And that helped build their business. A lot of interesting documentaries about the DuPont family. And then Nestle has just destroyed forests, waterways. They are allegedly warlords in certain countries in the southern hemisphere. And if I ever meet anyone who works in Nestle, I don't mean any of this. This is my character. This is my Charleston White character. That I'm. Yeah. I don't mean none of this. This is the second character. Ian Dunlap doesn't mean any of this. And then Nike, I think we've have heard all about the sweatshops and how they don't pay well, how they don't honor contracts
Mm.
overseas and things that they've done. So like at some point, even in the relationship conversation, because I see it, people will be like, well, why are you guys talking about this? This is the second level of wealth: integrity, who you do business with, and then who you select to be partners with forever. I think it's easy to talk about Puff or Vince McMahon, but the same kind of energy is not put behind an Exxon Mobil or Chevron or DuPont or Johnson and Johnson. When they paid one of the biggest fines, even Bayer at one point was shipping out medicine with literal blood in it that was HIV positive and sending it to African countries because they didn't want to pay to destroy the drug. I didn't see that on Vlad TV. I didn't see that on academics page. Like these things have to be talked about, but I understand why people don't, because there's a great risk for telling the truth. But what do you think? What are some of the more evil companies that you see in the world? Or you can just say, you follow my list. We'll be a team and say it was Ian's fault. I got you. I'm gonna set a screen.
For sure. Um, you know, it's difficult because I feel like a lot of companies have done, tremendously bad things in the past and even in the present.
Yep.
And I think it's important to highlight companies that have benefited from like the transatlantic slave trade, for
Mm-hmm.
instance. So like a New York Life, and I don't want to call them the worst company in the world, but I mean this is just the facts, right? Where the insurance industry was built on the backs of slavery, right?
Absolutely.
That was actually the first product that was actually insured.
Yeah.
Um,
We talked about episode 70. Yeah.
when you
And
look,
then the crazy part, they won't even give black people insurance at scale.
yeah, when you look at the banking industry, right? Every single bank has a history of redlining, discrimination, improper lending,
Mhm.
billions of dollars in wealth, uh, taken away from Black people because the banking industry as a whole, you know, came together and had a consortium to make sure that you know, Black people stayed at the bottom on the economic spectrum. So that's why when you see like these wealth statistics, it's not done by accident. This is hundreds of years of systematic, you know, oppression that has been put in place. But I'll take a little different approach as far as just the evil company. I want to look at the continent of Europe because, you know, as they all came together, right? Every single country in Europe, for the most part, all of the dominant ones at least, and you know, they carved up Africa, right? And conquered every single country for the most part except Ethiopia, and drained their national resources, raped and pillaged, destroyed the culture, made the people speak their language, and they've done this all over the world. They're the great colonizers, and from Australia to the Caribbean to South America to Africa, there's been no place in the world that has not been ravished and taken over by Europeans, and you still see the effects to this day. And you know, even just being in Paris, and you see, you know, all of that, the African brothers, they out there on the streets selling little trinkets, trying to survive. And these are people that's from French speaking countries like Sierra Leone, like Mali, like, you know, Senegal. And, you know, they don't have economic prosperity in their country. They speak French, so they have a connection to Paris and into France. So they immigrate to these countries, and they're at the bottom of the totem pole there. So it's like, you know, it's a very destructive force that they've put in place. You know, went to Egypt, blew the nose off of the Sphinx and every other similar type of statue. Even if you go to the Louvre, the Sphinx isn't the only one with its nose blown off. If you go to the Louvre, a lot of, like, at least 60% of the monuments from Egypt are missing a nose. Right? They tried to whitewash the history. Man, we can talk about
the original Dr. Miami.
Yeah, for sure, man. Everything, man, from you name it. It's just a rabbit hole that you just keep going down, from religion to politics to geopolitical, everything. You just keep going down this rabbit hole.
Sanctions now. Yep.
Yeah, you just keep going down this rabbit hole, and it's like these Europeans, they're like locusts. They've swarmed the whole entire world. So not necessarily a company, but a collection of countries: Belgium, Portugal, Spain, United Kingdom, France. Man, they've done a hell of a thing on this earth, man. If you really think about it, like, everybody speaks their language, right? I mean, we speak their language. Like, we speak English because English colonized it or took over America, right? Technically. So it's like it's just crazy. It's kind of mind-boggling to really look at a continent like Africa, right? Which is one of the largest continents, and
the largest.
Everybody speaks a European language, right? They might speak their own native language as well, but everybody speaks a European language, either English or French predominantly, right? That's kind of crazy, because, like, imagine going to Europe and they speak in Tree, which is that's the Ghana. That's what they speak in Ghana, or they speak in Swahili. Imagine going to France and you've seen a bunch of white people speaking Swahili.
Yeah.
Right. But nobody questions when you go to Congo and everybody's speaking French.